I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with the first Christmas movie review of Christmas 2024. Finally, can finally do this. And how are we going to kick this off? Well, we're going to kick this off with a Muppet film. No, it's not the Muppet Christmas Carol. We already reviewed that 2 years ago. We're reviewing for when the Muppets did their take on It's a Wonderful Life and it aired on TV. It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, which is directed by Kirk L. Thatcher. It's pretty much the Muppet version of It's a Wonderful Life. In a way, like, the title's kind of similar, and the plot is pretty similar, but... So what is the plot of the Muppets parody of It's a Wonderful Life? Well, the owner of a bank, who's played by Joan Cusack, who's a parody of Mr. Potter, or Mr. Porter, wants to own the Muppet Theater so she can build a nightclub over it. After she tricks Pepe into giving her the only copy of the contract between her father and the Muppets, she changes it so the Muppets have very little time to pay a debt they owe. Meanwhile, the Muppets, on the other hand, are trying to put on a Christmas show, and after the Muppets are confirmed by Bitterman, they make a lot of sacrifices to save up so they can keep the theater. Yeah, so... During the production, Jordan Nelson, a veteran Muppet performer, was ill during filming, so most of his characters were puppeteered on set by others, and later dubbed by Nelson in post-production. The exception was Nelson's character, Lou Zealand, who got performed by Bill Barretta. Sam the Eagle, a character that was originally performed by Frank Oz, was now voiced by Kevin Clash, while John Kennedy provided the on-set puppetry. And Scooter was performed by Brian Henson, who made his first major appearance since the death of his initial performer, Richard Hunt. And of course, Janice, another one that was done by Richard Hunt, was performed by Henson as well, as a speaking role for the first time since Hunt's death. And also was the very first Muppet production to not have the involvement of Frank Oz. And this time, Eric Jacobson performed Oz's characters, which were Fozzie Bear, Miss Piggy, and Animal, and it marked his feature film debut as those characters. So, and since, well, we all know that eventually Disney would buy these characters and the Jim Henson Company, this would be the final Muppet film that would not be done by Disney. It was one of the few Muppet-related productions that are owned by NBC Universal, but this did not go to theaters. This first premiered on TV. It premiered first on November 29, 2002 on NBC, and it was the first television film to feature the Muppets. They had quite a few films in theaters, beginning with 1979's The Muppet Movie, all the way to Muppets from Space. After Muppets from Space bombed, they'd go on TV for a while. They would never make an appearance on the big screen again, kind of all the way until 2011's The Muppets. But anyway, as for my reaction to this movie, well, for a Muppet film that's kind of parodying It's a Wonderful Life, I didn't think this was that bad. It's not terrible, but I wouldn't say it's great, but it's there for what it is. You do get some nice cameos, like you do get a cameo of Matthew Lillard as this eccentric show instructor that worked with Cirque du Soleil and tries to give this act for the Muppets that's kind of parodying Cirque du Soleil called Cirque du Soleil. Mel Brooks voices this parody of the snowman from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Joan Cusack is honestly would probably be the best part of the film. This is entertaining parody of Mr. Porter or Mr. Porter from It's a Wonderful Life. Now, there are some people that do kind of would get upset with this film, but some may think it kind of tarnishes what the Muppets are about, but I don't think it really does that. I don't think it really tarnishes their legacy in a way. It doesn't disrespect their legacy. This movie still has family-friendly laughter and moments of people towards just about anybody that enjoys the Muppets franchise. I'd say there's much worse reboots or much worse adaptations that do that. Much worse. And there's like one scene where Fozzie's like trying to get to the bank to deposit this money that they owe or they're going to lose their theater. He runs into a bunch of mishaps. Like he runs into the crocodile hunter that sees he's a bear and tries to tranquilize him. And then runs through this tree painting area so he almost looks like the Grinch. And then these like people parodying the Who's try to beat him up, even though technically that's not how his story goes, and he actually gave their presents back. And then, of course, runs through a bunch of lasers that Cusack's character activates so that the money will not get deposited. But also, like, Pepe also does steal a show here, like, also steals a show in this, like, and since this is like a spoof of It's a Wonderful Life, it actually does kind of not too bad. It still kind of has the messages of It's a Wonderful Life, so... And I also do like the song that like Gonzo and Kermit sing, like everyone... Gonzo and Kermit sing around near the end of the film. It was a pretty nice and sweet song, and... The plot's pretty much this Muppet version of It's a Wonderful Life, and it kind of pits Kermit and the gang against the corporate of the bank, who attempts to turn our theater into a nightclub, and of course, Fozzie volunteers to go deposit the money that they do manage to make, but he fails to and he loses it, so the theater's gone and everyone's going to be out of work, and Kermit falls into despair, but of course, there's going to be a little help on the way, an intervention from this angel that's ironically played by David Arquette, who's actually did work with Matthew Lillard on the first Scream movie. So, you have two actors from Scream in this film. So it is kind of funny and ironic. Like, usually, like, this is also the first Muppet film to earn a PG rating. They've always had their bizarre and kind of risque humor at times, but the ante does get kind of upped in the outing. Because, like, you do have some, like, weird scenes and of, like, where they're visiting the world where Kermit was never born after he wishes he wasn't born. And they see that the theater got turned to Club Dot, which is pretty much this nightclub that Joan Cusack's character wants to turn the theater into if they fail to pay their debts. And when they're exploring the theater, they see Scooter's now a cage dancer. Or like when Pepe like gets manipulated to work for Cusack's bank company, he gets promised a special bonus through this like very seductive way. But like, yeah, there's some mild innuendos, but it's not like innuendos that kind of ruin or are cringy. But so how do we start off the film? We start off, it's obviously set during the holidays, and the Muppet Theater is apparently going through financial troubles, and the Muppets are now seeking Kermit for guidance, but Kermit feels he's not useful to anyone, and so David Arquette's character brings this up with his boss, who is played by a certain someone I'll get to later, and they review what's gone on with Kermit in the past hour. So what really is set chronologically the beginning is Kermit's preparing for a Christmas show with the fellow Muppets, and Bobo the Bear will be playing Santa Claus. So after, like, first you get Matthew Lillard's cameo, where he tries to present his idea that's a reference to Cirque du Soleil, except it's called Cirque du Soleil, but it's presented as Cirque du Soleil, which is definitely a pretty funny moment. Like, Matthew Lillard's one of the funniest parts of the film here, and so the act ends up pretty much becoming this disaster. Kermit's not too keen on it, and then finds out that apparently it's supposed to be the dark side of Christmas, and Kermit doesn't like that idea because the show's supposed to be about the joy of Christmas, so this kind of pisses Lillard off, and he overreacts and quits. And so they're now out of a show act, but then But then, of course, Joan Cusack's character shows up in that time and announces she's going to foreclose the Muppet Theater if the Muppets don't pay her the money they owe her. And Pepe, who had also arrived around that time, he leaves the Muppets because has like a crush on Cusack's character. And then when they're like going through more struggles, Miss Piggy also leaves to go work in Hollywood be a guest on Scrubs. So when they're trying to raise money to pay Bitterman and they're rehearsing for their show, Kermit tries to find a celebrity to participate in this Christmas play, and it goes through a list of them, like from, in the montage scene, he goes through like Kelly Ripa or Molly Shannon, which was a pretty funny, which definitely got it. Okay, Molly Shannon's cameo was kind of funny, I'll admit that. And then you see like, he's like calling other celebs like Madonna or Sean Connery, may rest in peace, or even Schwarzenegger. He even tries calling Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, but he gets roasted. So eventually he goes to retrieve Miss Piggy, who was trying to work on Scrubs, but she kind of fucks it up, and she's supposed to be playing a dead person, but she fucks up acting like she survived the whole whatever injury, like her stunt or character she's supposed to be playing got herself into there, and so she gets fired. So yeah, like for this whole film, like you pretty much have David Arquette playing the lead angel, and you also like have his other Scream co-star cameoing as this eccentric show host right here, and so his cameo is one of the funniest parts of the film. Right there, and how he like basically he doesn't notice his show being a disaster and is just proud about it, and doesn't notice like the whole disaster that's going on. Like, and even during the incident, Rizzo hits his nose in the wall, so his nose looks like Rudolph. Or like this film does have a surprisingly mature piece of storytelling, like this whole story arc in multiple realities that does really work pretty well here, and it holds together in a way that doesn't really confuse the viewer. And the references do come thick and fast. Like, there's obviously, because the story is meant to be a reference of It's a Wonderful Life, you have the references to kind of It's a Wonderful Life, and you also see like a reference to Moulin Rouge, where the scene where they're doing their show, except it's called Moulin Scrooge for the opening act. You have like a reference to Star Wars at one point, where David Arquette tries to bring him to the world he's not born, but he screws up the first time, so he brings him to the world of Star Wars. You got reference to the Grinch, where Fozzie ends up almost turning out looking like the Grinch after going through a tree painting area. You have a reference to A Christmas Story even, where these kid frogs triple frog dare this one frog to get his tongue stuck to a pole. And various references to other holiday stuff here. And it does nicely reference past Muppet movies. Like, there's even a scene where you have a throwback to the original 1979 movie, where Kermit literally sees at Doc Hopper's restaurant and turned out to actually become successful because Kermit was not there to intervene. He wasn't able to stop it from becoming popular. So, like, they still acknowledge the other films' existence. This film does have cameos. It doesn't really rely on them too much. It's one of the few Muppet stuff that doesn't really rely on cameos a lot. So that is kind of a good thing. And this is one of the few Muppet films that's not really a musical. It's got a couple numbers. Like, there's the Moulin Scrooge scene, and there's a song that's sung by Kermit Gonzo near the end. Except, like, the second song is actually a pretty good song number. And of course, so anyway, so after Kermit retrieves Miss Piggy, Pepe then learns that Joan Cusack's character has changed the contract from, which was originally supposed to be the deadline midnight, but Joan Cusack sneakily changes it to 6 o'clock instead. So Pepe overhears this and tries to go warn Kermit about the deadline change, but Pepe keeps being interrupted by the show throughout the entire scene right there. And so when the Muppets are performing their Christmas musical, Pepe's still trying to talk to Kermit, and then of course, like, at one point, like, Pepe's attempts to warn him end up confusing all the performers, and so they start randomly performing random different songs, and Miss Piggy's trying to perform hers. And But the show's still a success, though. And it concludes with a standing ovation. Then after the show, Pepe does explain to Kermit that the deadline got changed, shows him the new contract, so Kermit's about to go, but Fozzie volunteers to deliver the money instead. So on his way there, he confronts this crazed show host that's spoofing the Crocodile Hunter. Philip runs through the tree to hide and gets covered in green, and then later confronts a bunch of Who's that... Although, if you know the story of the Grinch, like, the Who's literally accept the Grinch for who he is, and the Grinch returned all their presents, but, oh well. But they mistake him for the Grinch, and so they try to go beat him up, even though they forgave him, so it's kind of weird spoof. But Fozzie goes through the steam bath, sends it back to normal, he throws off the Who's, and so, when Fozzie does make it to the bank, Joan Cusack puts up a bunch of burning lasers, and so he runs through the lasers, but he runs through them twice because he has to go back for the bag. But then by the time he gets there, though, he ends up realizing he accidentally swapped the bag with the Salvation Army's bag. Well, he runs into these two Salvation Army people before he could get confronted by the angry Who's that actually, like, the guy that's playing Santa for the Salvation Army donation thing actually is about to let Fozzie borrow his coat before the parody Who's show up, and he realizes they accidentally grabbed their bag containing clothes and lost the money bag there. And so they're too late to pay their money, and it's 6 p.m. And so Kermit's a little bit mad at Fozzie, and then after all these events, then the boss then allows Daniel, or David Arquette's character, to help Kermit, is now finally convinced. So Arquette's character then arrives, like, the boss turns him into this, like, looks like this ice cream man from Hello Dolly, gives him this book that's called Performing Miracles for Dummies, and then sends him to Kermit's area. And then he arrives and defrosts Kermit, and then Kermit wishes he had never been born, much like how George says that in It's a Wonderful Life. And so after that, he ends up showing Kermit what would have happened if he had not existed after accidentally sending him to the Star Wars world, and then shows him what the world would look like if he had not been born, where the park that Kermit was sitting at and sulking at had actually apparently got turned to a shopping mall called Bitterman Plaza by Joan Cusack's character. Right there, it's now replaced with a statue of her character instead of a Kermit statue. All of his friends are now miserable, like Gonzo's now a homeless bum, Rizzo's about to be killed on live TV, the Mayhem Band are now pretty much Irish river dancers, Doc Hopper's Frog Legs is now a restaurant, and so it's a good, nice callback to that first movie. And then, of course, the Muppet Theater turned into that actual nightclub that Joan Cusack has the mall of and what she wants to turn it into once the Muppet Theater is closed. Now I haven't mentioned much of the boss character. The boss character, unfortunately, is well played by an actress that, back when this did come out, back then this actress was actually sane and cool, is played by Whoopi Goldberg. But keep in mind, guys, yeah, as much as I don't hate Whoopi Goldberg today, keep in mind this was back when she was actually cool, back when she was sane, back when she was not the woke whack from The View we have today, back when she was not any of those things. This was back in in the days of stuff like Patrick Swayze's Ghost. This was like those films like that, The Lion King, Ghost, those were back in the days when she was actually sane and cool. Back when she was actually funny. This came out back in that. This movie came out around that era. Not this, and I prefer the older Whoopi Goldberg, not the crazy one from The View we have today. The Muppet cast are also very good here. You even have new characters from from you have the newer characters around the time this came out, like they had Pepe, Rizzo, Johnny and his monkey pal. Yeah, the voices are not done by the original cast for quite a lot of reasons, because around this time most of them had retired, but the new guys are also pretty good in the roles. And David Arquette actually also does pretty fine for the material he's given, but I think I do kind of wish the character had a little more to do. Like maybe have a few more scenes of him and Kermit's and develop their screen time together a little more. Now, while Matthew Lillard's the best cameo of the film, Joan Cusack I honestly think was probably the best character of the film, no doubt. And probably one of the best Muppet villains. Like, when it comes to kind of my problems, like, the first half of the movie does drag. The jokes really weren't all that funny right there at first. And then it's not till, like, they kick into Moulin Scrooge, it starts to go uphill. And the Moulin Scrooge number was actually kind of funny as well. And it's just that kind of spoof the Moulin Rouge that I don't really have interest in watching, but... And, like... The camera angles and the kinetic style of the music actually do make the scene really well done. And, like, there's times when the movie doesn't really seem to know its target audience, and, like, it tells a story how It's a Wonderful Life gets told, but it kind of places you in the middle of everything and then rewinds you to show everything you miss right there, but there wasn't really need for cutting in and out between scenes, like, just to have like Goldberg's character contemplating the obvious, or to Arquette's character right there, like the kind of like the scenes with them just weren't really all that interesting. Like the whole job of Arquette's character was to show Kermit that his life isn't over no matter how hard it seems, and Arquette's character does this by kind of showing him this other virtual world where Kermit had not been born, and like the initial meeting when these two characters finally meet it's not really a happy or funny moment, because like when Kermit does scream, "I wish I'd never been born," like eventually he keeps repeatedly saying that, and it does kind of get a little annoying after the first two times. There, but then we like get to the world where he's not born, and where you see like Club Dots, and inside Club Dot, like Sam the Eagle is now a dancer at the club, Scooter's now a cage dancer, and Johnny's now a bartender serving Cusack's character, and then like the two hecklers, Waldorf and Stiff. They're basically forced to buy drinks for girls. Eventually, they're no longer afford to pay anymore. And so, Cusack pretty much tells them to leave, pretty much kicks down their chairs, and Johnny, like, clearly rats them out, and Cusack's character's mad that they're not buying any more drinks, despite the fact that they're starting to run out of money. And so, she pretty much tells them to hit the road and kicks down their chairs. And, like, Kermit's nephew Robin is forced to make drinks. And Cusack kind of tells them to cut corners when they run out and to fill the bottles with tap water instead. And Beaker's now a bouncer who gets ordered to kick Kermit out when he protests what Bitterman's doing, or Cusack's character's doing. And Miss Piggy's now kind of a scam artist, a cat lady scam artist who's kind of acting like the crazy cat lady from The Simpsons, pretending to be this Jamaican person to scam people for money. Yeah, it's a pretty shitty world that Kermit finds himself in. But then you get the Everyone Matters scene where he sees Gonzo on the park bench again, and so he lifts up Gonzo's spirit and they sing Everyone Matters, and then this Gonzo becomes more on friendly terms. And then after that, Kermit announces he wants his life back, so Arquette's character then restores him back to his reality by spitting in his face. And they return to the Muppet Theater. Then after that, Kermit then returns to the Muppet Theater, reconsules with all his friends, but then Cusack's character arrives to shut the theater down, has this anime-style fight with Miss Piggy. And then after that, Pepe arrives, and it turns out he donated his bonus that Cusack's character had paid him, and donated it to the government to make the Muppet Theater a landmark, and it's never going to get torn down, regardless if it has to close or not. It's going to remain there permanently. And so Cusack's character can't tear it down anymore. It's not going to be able to make any more money off of it. And so she pretty much throws this tantrum and storms out. And I feel like that was kind of missing from It's a Wonderful Life, where in that scene, no, when Mr. Porter originally placed a warrant for George's arrest, when he didn't get his payments, but then the whole town arrived to pretty much pay the government in as their kind of gratitude for all of George's kind deeds. And so the authorities ripped up the warrant papers and decided not to let George go to jail at all. We didn't really see Porter's reaction to that. I wish we kind of did. I felt like was kind of missing from It's a Wonderful Life. We didn't really see Porter's reaction to find out that George was not going to jail. But after that, Bobo still dressed up in his Santa Claus outfit, invites all the Muppets to sing outside Christmas carols with these other people, or the other people that watch the show. And then after that, apparently that money that Fozzie lost, that got lost to the Salvation Army people. It turns out Fozzie's screw up actually ends up causing the two Salvation Army people actually ends up calling it their most successful Christmas ever with all that money that was supposed to go to the bank. And now basically these two are now going to be able to pull off a successful Christmas for the community they're donating to. And many great things are going to happen to a lot of poverty residents that rely on the donations. So in a way, Fozzie's misfortune and the Muppets' sacrifices actually did lead to a good deed being done for many others. And they still get to keep their theater due to Pepe donating all his bank earnings to the city to make the place a permanent landmark regardless of how long it runs for. Right there. So that's kind of how it ends. Salvation Army gets a successful Christmas. The Muppet Theater stays. Cusack's character gets nothing except her own greed. Kind of like how It's a Wonderful Life ends. Now, and then of course the end credits have the Muppets singing the song that Kermit and Gonzo sing in the alternate reality, a reprise of it. And that's really where it ends. Now, usually at this part, I would mention the bad qualities around near the end of the reviews, but honestly, since this is more of a mixed review, I don't think I really need to repeat those. I kind of already mentioned kind of the bad qualities where it kind of starts off a little bit slowish. You do get Matthew Lillard's scene, which is actually funny, but other than that, the rest of the first half is kind of slow. Then it kind of picks up around the middle. You don't get too many scenes with Arquette's character or Kermit's, and I feel like we should have had more scenes with them. That was a bit of a problem. And, what else? Oh, and... yeah, in a way, like those, but it's not a terrible film. It's just kind of a mixed, alright, fine film. It's a nice little reference to It's a Wonderful Life. So honestly, I kind of mentioned both good and bad in this whole review, and I might just do that with the more mixed reaction reviews. That might be easier. It's a movie that's there, it's not bad, it's not a great one, but if I want better Muppet films, I'll just watch The Muppet Movie or Muppets Take Manhattan. For a better Muppet Christmas film, I'll just watch The Muppets Christmas Carol. And the 2011 film that does kind of have a similar Save the Theater concept for this movie. So, yeah. This could have had maybe this could have had two less on the cameos and a little too much, maybe a little less NBC references and and like just more scenes of Arquette and Kermit's character, just kind of more scenes in this alternate reality, then maybe this could be a little better. But that's just me, though. So in the end, guys, I would honestly just stream It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie. If you kind of like want a more harmless like Muppet version of It's a Wonderful Life, but don't expect too much memorable stuff from it. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review of It's a Very, Very Muppet Christmas Movie. If you're wondering how I'm going to rank It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are a Muppets fan and looking for an alright It's a Wonderful Life version, a more family-friendly version that involves the Muppets, then I'd probably just stream this one online, so it's really just there. But if you want a better Christmas-themed Muppet film, just go watch our take on A Christmas Carol, because that's a way better Christmas movie, though, with the Muppets. And if you're going to rank It's a Very, Very Muppet Christmas Movie, I'm going to give It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie a 6 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. Now, if you have seen this movie, if you're one of the few Muppet fans that probably has watched this film, tell me in the comments down below what you thought of this movie, whether you hate this movie, whether you like this movie. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.